Flamingo paint, superior durability, superior hiding, superior coverage, simply superior.
Sasso insecticide spray and coil. Kumintuntum Perkun.
Hello, good evening, welcome. This is Ghana Tonight. We're live from our news about Desawe Kanda, also live on TV3 Ghana on Facebook and on DSTV channel 279. We're all across the world on 3news.com. I am Alfred Akonse. Tonight, President John Dramani Mahama rallies support of organized labor for structural reforms in public sector emoluments. We have more from the President's dialogue with organized labor earlier today, plus what the Finance Minister has been saying regarding public sector employment or recruitment. Stay with us. Also, we interrogate some issues raised by the minority caucus in Parliament who are on a tour of some cocoa farming communities in the Ashanti region. Stay with us here on Ghana Tonight. Also, tonight, government justifies the necessity of registering SIM cards all over again, our outlining roadmap for the exercise in the coming days. We have this and more, including the very unfortunate incident earlier today, that explosion of a fuel tanker as well in the central region. We have updates on that. The fire service is going to be joining us shortly to give us an update on this rather unfortunate incident earlier today and why we've seen a number of such incidents in the beginning. That's from January up until now. At least we've counted 4 incidents involving or accidents involving fuel tankers in this country. Stay with us. We have a conversation as always. You're an integral part of it. Let's hear from you. The hashtag we're using is Ghana Tonight on Facebook and on X. Let's get talking. Well, let's settle for Ghana Briefs.
The Tema Metropolitan Daycare Center has been closed down until further notice following the Sky Arrow microlight aircraft crash that killed 2 people. Meanwhile, forensic investigators from the Aircraft Accident and Incident Investigation and Prevention Bureau have conveyed the debris from the scene for further investigation.
We've collected the wreckage. We are sending them to the Ghana Air Force. They have a hangar. That is where we are sending them to for protection and for our investigations. And so we will come out and let the public know who were the victims and who are their families. We have clearly protocols that we have to follow. There's no investigation that is the same. Investigations are different. Every incident is different from the other one. But we have a general rule, and so that is what we are going to use.
The Minister for Labour, Jobs and Employment, Dr. Rashid Pelpo, has commended the Civil and Local Government Staff Association of Ghana, CLOGSAG, for calling off its strike and granting the government a 2-week window to address their concerns. Dr. Pelpo indicated that the government will immediately begin engaging key stakeholders on increasing budgetary allocation to resolve the grievances raised by CLOGSAG before any further industrial action is considered.
We hope that within 14 days, all the areas, all the people that need to be consulted, agencies that need to be consulted, would have been consulted, and we would have been able to sit down and look at the way forward.
Director General of the Ghana Tertiary Education Commission, GTEC, Professor Ahmed Jinapo, says there is a significant decline in the use of honorary degrees due to stricter enforcement measures to curb abuse of academic titles. He appeared before the Committee on Government Assurances in Parliament earlier.
The time that Kwame Nkrumah was given honorary doctorate, maybe nobody was even interested in finding out whether it was honorary or it was even proper for him to use it. In this particular dispensation, there is a seeming abuse of the use of such titles to the extent that people today are being given honorary professor. If President Mahama today is given honorary doctorate and he says he's not going to use it, it is reflective of the dispensation that we find ourselves now.
The Minister for Communications, Digital Technology and Innovations, Samuel Nati George, has justified Ghana's renewed push for biometric SIM registration, warning against the risk of transferring compromised data into a new system. Speaking at a media engagement, the minister revealed that parts of the existing database may have been fraudulently acquired, raising concerns about the integrity of current SIM registration records.
The critical thing I complained about, for which reason I said the registration in 2021 to 2023 should not have happened, was the lack of biometric verification. The lack of things that we are doing today, the use of OTPs, ensuring that SIMs for foreigners are churned after 90 days. So basically what I am doing today is walking the talk that we spoke in opposition.
The Vice President, Professor Nana Jane Opoku-Agyeman, has renewed calls for Ghanaians to embrace agriculture as a pathway to national development and self-reliance. During a working visit to the Ministry of Food and Agriculture, she said Ghana has no excuse to depend on food imports despite its favorable climates.
We have no excuse not to grow our food, not to rear our birds, not to satisfy our fundamental need. So I want to commend you for everything that you are doing to ensure that we can become truly independent. You are not independent when you live in a place where you can grow your food and you are importing food. That should be a thing of the past.
FIFA has rejected Nigeria's claim that DR Congo used ineligible players in the 2026 World Cup African Player Final. The Nigeria Football Federation plans to appeal and may take the case to the Court of Arbitration for Sport. Nigeria has alleged that up to 6 DR Congo players were ineligible, but the ruling stands for now. The match ended 1-1 with DR Congo winning 4-3 on penalties, confirming Nigeria's elimination.
Oh, there's more news on 3news.com. Make some time and visit 3news.com. This is Ghana Tonight. We're live on 3FM 92.7, also on TV3 Ghana on Facebook and on DSTV channel 279. As always, all across the world on 3news.com. We are on 3 News as well on YouTube. Always brought to you by Flamingo Paint, simply superior. Sasso insecticide spray and coil, tum precom. Coming up next on Ghana Tonight, it's very unfortunate news we're hearing. We'll get an update on this situation that happened earlier today. 12 firefighters have been reported injured in the Gomoa porting tanker explosion. That's the update that we got on this. And this is one we've been keeping tabs on it. Here on Ghana Tonight. Now, a petrol tanker exploded in the early hours of today, March 17, at Porting Junction in the Gomoa East District of the Central Region, destroying property and causing heavy traffic congestion along the Kaswa Cape Coast Road. That's what you're seeing there. The incident is reported to have occurred around 5:30 a.m. today. No deaths were recorded, while the driver of the tanker is said to have escaped before the explosion. The tanker was reportedly traveling from Accra towards the Central Region when it hit a section of the road under construction. That is what we're learning right now. And the driver lost control and overturned, leading to the explosion. Now, a worker at a nearby Choba, which was engulfed by the inferno, said she and her colleagues had to flee for their lives when the tanker fell and began to roll over, only to hear the explosion moments later. Personnel from the Ghana National Fire Service at the Apam Fire Station, that's the National Disaster Management Organization, NADMO, and the Ghana Police Service responded to the fire outbreak. What we're learning now is that 12 firefighters were injured when this fuel tanker, they were trying to douse the fire, exploded at Goma Potin. That's what you're seeing on the screen right now. Now, according to a statement from the Ghana National Fire Service, the incident occurred during a cooling operation. That's the incident that led to these 12 firefighters sustaining various degrees of injury, led to this, the cooling operation that the team had successfully extinguished a fire involving this fire tanker, the fuel tanker. The Central Regional Fire Control Room received a distress call at approximately 5:58 a.m. reporting a fire outbreak involving a fuel tanker with registration number GT567122 along the Winneba-Accra Highway. The tanker was carrying about 54,000 liters of petrol, 54,000 liters of petrol. A driver and his mate also escaped unhurt. That's what we're learning right now. And the video of the firefighters fighting this fire as it well, to try to douse this explosion, unfortunately, we understand has led to about 12 of them sustaining injuries and 54,000 liters of petrol. You know, at a time like this, when this particular commodity is also in high demand, is one that also generates some worry, as well as the destruction that this explosion caused, plus the injury to these firefighters, as we're hearing right now. Let's get a bit more detail on this particular development. As unfortunate as it is, DO2 Desmond Aka is head of public relations at the Ghana National Fire Service. DO2 Desmond Aka is joining us on Zoom right now for an update, a bit more detail on what we're seeing right now on the screen. DO2, good evening. Thank you for joining us here on Ghana Tonight. First off, we're reading of this 12 fire service personnel, your colleagues, firefighters, who have sustained injuries as a result of this fuel tanker explosion earlier today. Can you give us a bit more detail? What's the update right now?
Yes, good evening and thanks for having me. It's quite unfortunate that this morning, when we responded to the fire situation involving the 54,000 liter petrol tanker, which crashed by the side of the road, we, in the course of extinguishing the fire, we experienced an explosion which affected 12 of our men. So 4 were severely injured. 3 out of the 4 were sent to the Winneba Trauma Center, whilst 1 was rushed to the Potin Polyclinic for treatment. Earlier on in the day, the Director of Operations and the Regional Commander for Central Region visited the injured and then assured them of management's commitment to ensure they receive the best of care until they recover fully. The remaining 8 were treated by the ambulance team who responded at the incident and gave them first aid. And as at 6 p.m. This evening, they were all discharged, including the 4 who got severely injured. So we wish them a speedy recovery. But earlier on, when the fire broke out, some affected structures within the community were involved. And therefore, when we got to the scene, we also had to grapple with extinguishing that fire. Fortunately, the driver and his mate escaped unhurt, and nobody within the affected house or buildings also got affected as a result of the explosion and the fire that we experienced. this morning.
I see, and you too, it's good to know that, yes, no casualties, there's been injuries, and they are recuperating or recovering, as we're hearing now. But we've observed a trend of these fuel tankers either exploding after an accident or overturning in that resultant effect, and you have residents in and around those areas rushing to siphon fuel. At least we've counted 4 separate instances since January this year where such an incident has happened, and we're going to run through it so you tell me exactly what's happening and if you have observed this trend as well. Because on the 15th of January 2026, in the Volta region, that's Nyangbo Tapi Mado area, a fuel tanker overturned in that area. I'm going to put it on the screen right now. In Atabaze Junction, in the central region, Elmina specifically, a fuel tanker overturned on that same day. That's the 6th of February 2026. That same month, we had that deadly incident at in Swam. That's at Wejiri, specifically Accra. That's on the Swam Accra Highway in the eastern region. That led to 4 persons being burned to death, several injured after that explosion of the fuel tanker. We saw some residents also trying to siphon fuel that led to these deaths that we're talking about. That's the 3rd incident. The 4th incident we observed is today, what is happening in the central region, in Gomoa-Porting specifically, where we saw the fuel tanker explode again with 12 of your men sustaining injuries as a result of fighting the fire. 4 in the last less than 3 months of the year 2026. What's going on?
Well, it is based on a lot of factors. I mean, sometimes driver fatigue could be a cause. Sometimes depending on the nature of the road, if the road is curvy and the tanker or the vehicle is moving at a very high speed. Sometimes if somebody also drives carelessly, maybe in doing wrongful overtaking, and then maybe in an attempt to save lives, sometimes it results to some of these accidents. Other times too, if the vehicles are poorly maintained, there could be a tire blast, and that could throw the vehicle off the road, and the driver could easily lose control and could lead to some of these unfortunate incidents. So I believe that with intensified efforts, when we begin to engage the stakeholders within that particular space, by and large, we should be able to nip some of these preventable crashes in the bud.
Yeah, but that there's been calls as well for a fire station to be located at this particular area. How dire and urgent is this particular call that even the residents are making as a result of this fire, this fuel tanker explosion earlier today?
It's very important that we try as much as possible to reduce travel distances between our fire station. Because if you look at our response this morning, if you look at the enclave, the closest fire station could have been Bujumbura. Bujumbura has been out of commission for some time. Winneba is also closer. It has also been out of commission for some time. So Kaswa and then Apam had to be dispatched to the scene. And it took them close to 30 minutes before they got to the scene. And so if somebody was trapped in the affected vehicle, it will mean that looking at the extent of damage, the person would have lost his or her life. And therefore, it is imperative that MMDAs prioritize the Ghana National Fire Service and build more fire stations closer to our communities, and especially along the highways, to reduce our response time and therefore lives, so that lives could be saved. We'll be doing ourselves a lot more good. Many a times the public blame us for late arrivals. Some of these factors that we are not so close to the communities. We are not so close to the accident scene. And especially where we also are bedeviled with overage vehicles. Sometimes they break down and we need to fix them. And it takes time. Sometimes to even import the parts also takes time. And therefore, when we deliberately make some investment in trying to establishing more fire stations closer to us, I believe it will go a long way to reduce the travel distances so that a lot more lives could be saved, so that properties otherwise that could have gone down the drain by the fire could also be salvaged.
And DO2, thank you so much for this. And we're keeping an eye on especially the recovery of your colleagues, the 12 firefighters who sustained injuries as a result of their effort to fight this fire at the Goma Porting in the Central Region. Thank you so much for this. That's the DO2 Desmond Aka, is the head of public affairs at the Ghana National Fire Service. Thank you so much for joining us here on Ghana Tonight. And we're going to get into matters that also playing out earlier today at the presidency. And just let you know as well that we're following closely the minorities' visit to some of the cocoa growing areas in the Ashanti region. William Evans Nkrumah is there. He's going to be connecting with us. But coming up next year on Ghana Tonight, President John Dramani Mahama is rallying the support of organized labor for structural reforms in public sector emoluments. We have more from the president's dialogue earlier today with organized labor. And this is coming at a time when a number of labor unions had either declared their intention to go on strike or have been on strike and eventually suspended. But President Mahama is tonight rallying the support of organized labor for structural reforms in public sector emoluments. The president says a major overhaul of Ghana's public sector pay structure or system is set to be rolled out. Take a look.
It is therefore my firm conviction that the time has come not for just incremental adjustments, but for bold structural reforms in how public sector emoluments are determined and managed. Accordingly, as part of our reset agenda, the government has declared 2026 as the year of transition from the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission to a new independent Emoluments Commission. This reform is not about dismantling the progress we have achieved. On the contrary, the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission will serve as the institutional core to bring about this transformation. We'll reinforce and reposition the Commission both financially and in terms of human resources so that it becomes the technical cornerstone of a modern independent national authority capable of managing public sector pay with professionalism, independence, and credibility. The Independent Emoluments Commission will create a transparent, rules-based, and evidence-driven system for setting public sector pay. Under this framework, salaries and benefits will be guided by productivity, labor market realities, fiscal sustainability, strategic national priorities. And through this reform, government aims to, 1, address long-standing inequities within the public sector, rationalize allowances and benefits, strengthen the link between pay and productivity. Our goal is to move away from the fragmented and ad hoc wage decisions towards a system that is fair to workers, is responsible to the taxpayers, and is sustainable for future generations. Let me emphasize that this reform will be implemented in a phased manner and will be carried out in full consultation with organized labor every step of the way. As a first step, the new legislative framework will cover public sector institutions, agencies, and state-owned enterprises with a differentiated approach that reflects each entity's financial capacity and operational reality. It is also important to clarify that the inclusion of Article 71 office holders will be undertaken only after the required constitutional amendments and legislative processes have been carried out and are complete.
Well, at this same program, this engagement to organize labor, the Finance Minister, Dr. Kaseda Tufo, did announce that this administration has commenced processes for recruitment of staff into the public service, although underscoring the huge impact or the burden of the emoluments, that's a compensation on from the public sector on government budget. And he says that despite this, revealing the government was forced to borrow 17 billion cedis to pay salaries in 2025. That's one of the big takeaways earlier today. But this is what the Finance Minister said. Take a look.
Ghana's compensation to tax revenue ratio of 44% for 2025 is higher and way above the ECOWAS threshold of 35%. The ECOWAS convergence criteria requires that compensation should not exceed 35%, but in the case of Ghana, it is 44%. In 2025, non-oil tax revenue was 183 billion Ghana cedis. Statutory funds, including District Assembly's Common Fund, Ghana Education Trust Fund, and National Health Insurance Levy, was about 55.7 billion Ghana cedis. Debt servicing, this is what we use to service our debt, amounted to 64.3 billion. This means that of the 183 billion Ghana cedis non-oil tax revenue that we collected, only 61.9 billion Ghana cedis is available for the purposes of compensation, goods and service, and capital expenditure. The 2025 compensation bill was 78.9 billion Ghana cedis.
Well, that's Dr. Kasela Tufo, Finance Minister there. And let's go on the telephone now. And Austin Game is a labor expert. He's joining us on the telephone. Mr. Game, good evening. Thank you for joining us here on Ghana Tonight. Hello?
Yeah.
Mr. Game, can you hear us?
Yeah, okay.
Hello?
Yes, I can hear you.
Great. Now, you hear the Finance Minister talk about the burden or the impact of compensation on government revenue or the state coffers, for that matter, 44% of tax revenue, plus the fact that last year government had to borrow 17 billion cedis to pay compensation, as in salaries. And then now he's talking about also employment into the public sector beginning this year. How do you weigh these two positions, as has been espoused by the Finance Minister earlier today?
Yeah.
Hello?
Thank you. I think I was present at the meeting, and to be honest with you, the meeting itself went very well. Thank you.
Hello, Mr. Game, can you listen to us on the phone? I think you're watching on the television or listening to us on the radio.
Okay. Yeah, so as I was saying, I was present at the meeting. I heard both the President, the Minister for Finance, and also Comrade Joshua Ansah, the Secretary General of the TUC, who replied on behalf of organized labor. Honestly, for many years, an attempt was made at the time of President Rawlings. In fact, before we even transited into the Republican Constitution, unfortunately, we did not adhere to the agreement reached because there was a complete consolidation of salaries and wages in this country with the intention of enhancing wages, at the same time taking care of pensions Unfortunately, we, the same people, because of the coming into force of the 1992 Constitution, we dismantled everything that was good about it. Coincidentally, it was fully implemented when President Mahama became president, in 2012, thereabout. And it's a very burdensome thing when you're talking about this issue. Nonetheless, let me put it this way. We have a labor law that fully responds to the demands put together by both the president, the finance minister, and also even the Secretary General of the TUC. Our labor law is very clear that workers should be paid based on productivity. In Ghana, both private sector, public sector, we are not fully adhering. Indeed, even the private sector, shamefully, we are not even responding to it. People are paid because they have come to work. People are paid and we have incremental adjustments with much room of allowances, strangely, in this country. And so that is the reason why our salary administration regime is bedeviled with inequities and so forth and so on. So it was a welcome news when the president said so. I was beaming with smiles, hoping and trusting that everybody else will follow suit. So it's now on the shoulder of the transitional body, the Fair Wages, which is supposed to be expected to be transitioned into an emolument commission to begin the process of full detailed consultation with organized labor and other stakeholders in ensuring that we do not fail again.
I see. And I do appreciate your time on this particular issue going forward, as the finance minister outlined, and then also the measures that have been proposed to take place in the coming days. But there's some news that we've been monitoring quite closely, and this is some breaking news here on Ghana Tonight. Morocco have been officially crowned champions of the 2025 Africa Cup of Nations after the CAF Appeal Board overturned the result of the final against Senegal. That's the breaking news coming through right now. That's the breaking news coming through right now, and this fresh on the plate hit our desk some few minutes ago. Morocco have been officially crowned champions of the 2025 Africa Cup of Nations after the CAF Appeals Board overturned the result of the final against Senegal. The decision comes after extraordinary scenes in Rabat, where the Lions of Teranga walked off the pitch in protest, leading to a retrospective 3-0 forfeited victory for the host nation. Now, Senegal stripped off this trophy after final protest. In a detailed statement, which you're seeing there on the screen right now, the Confederation of Africa Football, that's CAF Appeals Board, decided today that in application of Article 84 of the regulations of the CAF Africa Cup of Nations, that's AFCON, they have declared admissible in form and the appeal. The Senegal national team is declared to have forfeited the final match of the Total Energies CAF Africa Cup of Nations AFCON Morocco 2025. And in this regard, with the result of the match being recorded as 3-0 in favor of the Fédération Royale Marocaine de Football, that's FRMF, that on the appeal of the Moroccan Football Federation regarding the application of Articles 82 and 84 of the regulations of CAF Africa Cup of Nations, AFCON, the CAF Appeals Board made the following rulings. That's number one. They go on to give details. The appeal lodged by the Moroccan Football Federation is declared admissible in form, and the appeal is upheld. That's number one. Two, that the CAF Disciplinary Board decision is set aside. Three, the CAF Appeals Board further finds that the conduct of the Senegal team falls within the scope of Articles 82 and 84 of the regulations of the Africa Cup of Nations, and also the protest lodged by the Moroccan Federation of Football is upheld. They eventually declared that the Senegal Football Federation, through the conduct of its team, infringed Article 82 of the regulations of the Africa Cup of Nations. In application of Article 84 of the regulations of the Africa Cup of Nations, the Senegal team is declared to have forfeited the match, with the result recorded as 3-0 in favor of Morocco. That is what has happened just some few minutes ago, and it's generated quite some conversation right now amongst the sports fraternity and across the world. Let's go on to quickly have a conversation right now, to have a quick conversation on this particular. This is a very, very interesting development. We'll find out if it's unprecedented in the history of the Africa Cup of Nations. And Michael Otieje is the general manager here at 3 Sports, joining us on the telephone right now. Jose, good evening. Thank you very much for joining us here on Ghana Tonight.
Mr. Kansi, the one and only.
Now, let's establish this first of all. Is this unprecedented in the history of the Africa Cup of Nations that a country is declared as winner, there's an appeal, and that country, that person or the country declared as winner has had its victory overturned and then given to the other country that appealed?
Oh, I'm not sure about the exact precedence, but African football has been inflicted with a lot of what you would call political decisions over the last few years, especially at the height of the formation of CAF in the early 50s, sometimes in the 60s, and even sometimes in the 60s, 70s. But it's unprecedented that a Nations Cup final is played. The final was played sometime in January, so we are talking give and take 2 months after that, 8 weeks and more, up to 10 weeks after that, on the night of a big Champions League game, almost as if CAF wanted to have staged it. Then the Confederation of African Football announces a decision from its appeals committee, effectively and technically overturning the decision of the referee. I think we've not heard the last of this, but for a lot of people, it sums up the unbelievably chaotic state that African football at the highest level is involved in. That Morocco, who went into the final looking for their first title in 50 years since 1976, have been awarded one, and most people say not earned one, because in the end they lost on the football field.
Okay. Now, but do you foresee a possible appeal of this ruling by Senegal as well?
Well, there's been precedent. There's been a number of issues in the CAF Champions League where CAF has made decisions, and the Court of Arbitration for Sports, which is the highest decision making for sports based in Switzerland, has overturned it. Senegal's option is very simple: to report this to CAS, to the Confederation of African Football. Their main argument, and some say the most compelling argument, will be that when they left the pitch, they will have to determine whether it was within the mandated period when a team can leave the pitch and come back. They did leave the grounds, and the grounds by extension is the stadium, not the playing field. Because remember, there is a playing field and there is the stadium. Did they leave the stadium? They didn't. Did they leave the pitch? They did. Did the referee make a decision on the day that their decision to leave the pitch and the minutes that they had been away from the pitch fell within the mandated period by which a game could be forfeited? Clearly, by the referee allowing them to come back onto the pitch, continue the game, the penalty to be taken, and for Senegal to go on in extra time to win, the referee decided that Senegal had not broken any rules in leaving and coming back. So Senegal's main argument, I reckon, will be that the final authority in any football match, which was the referee, decided that they had not violated any rule. He allowed them back onto the pitch, oversaw and supervised a football game in extra time. They won that football game. They were awarded medals, and so they are rightfully the winners. And there are a lot of people within the African football community who think Morocco will have a really powerful, compelling case when they take it to the Court of Arbitration for Sports later, which is bound to happen.
I see. And maybe very quickly, so just run this by us. How is it going to play out? Is it that now Senegal will have to surrender the trophy to CAF, and then CAF will hand it over to Morocco at a ceremony, or what?
Well, I think this is more symbolic than anything. If I was Senegal, if you were Senegal, any other confederation will not hand Morocco the title. Also, remember that there has been a sense of resentment on the African continent about a perception of bias from Morocco. Senegal is the reason why Senegal did what they did, and they are not going to budge anytime soon. CAF, of course, cannot possibly take that trophy away. I think that technically CAF have done this for the record books. My imagination is that the rest of the continent will never regard Morocco as having won the 2025 Africa Cup of Nations. I'm not sure how much of they themselves will think they've won it. They have one Nations Cup title from 1976. Ultimately, a lot of people on the continent consider Senegal the winners. The record books per CAF at this stage will consider Morocco to have won based on the appeal. There will be an asterisk by them in any future Wikipedia page. But Senegal will go to the Court of Arbitration for Sports, which often tends to be the final authority in all of this. And I think that's where the ultimate decision will lie. So my final word on this is far from over, and we've not seen the last chapter in this intriguing Nations Cup story.
And I do thank you so much for this expert analysis. I made brief. We have to get to the point where football is won on the pitch and not in the courtroom, is it not?
All right, then, Alfred. Have a good night.
Have a good night, too. Thank you so much. Michael Ocheje is the general manager in charge of 3 sports here at Media Journal. This is Ghana Tonight. We're going to go for this quick break. When we're back, we will tell you why the minority in parliament is visiting cocoa growing communities to engage with the cocoa farmers. And there's been some reactions as well to claims that we have the PBC being directed by government not to purchase cocoa beans. Stay with us. We'll be back shortly. have the minority group been to so far?
Well, so the minority started their visitation yesterday. They've been to Bosome Freho constituency, Afano North, South, and Central. Asante Akem North, South, and Central constituencies. Today, they continued day 2 of their visitation, and today they went to Afano South West constituency, and of course, they also visited Ahafo Ano. Then, of course, Ahafo North, to be precise, and Achimamponya constituency. So these are the constituencies that the minority caucus in Parliament, led by the minority chief whip and the deputy minority leader, have been visiting together with some ranking members on the Food and Agriculture Committee in Parliament. Alfred.
I see. And Frank Anodom-Preh has been quoted as making an emphatic statement involving the PBC, a directive from government. Exactly what did he say in that regard?
Well, absolutely. So they have been touching on array or avalanche of issues pertaining to cocoa, and of course why the government has, well, according to them, failed to pay them since November. And in one of the explanations to the cocoa farmers, the member of parliament for Nsawama Dwojin, also happens to be the minority chief whip, says government, the current administration, is very insensitive to the plight of cocoa, citing that even PBC was supposed to have received some money from government in the area of purchasing of the cash crop after 21 days, which is to him the statutory period for which they're supposed to receive that particular money to be able to purchase the cash crop. They have not received a dime. And this is how he puts it.
PBC foi akwa tokoko akwa bank akwa G facility atokoko no. Since last year, October to November, up to now, PBC ni yenti omukaye. It was so cocoa now the cocoa crash war. Or is Kenny Ho? And as my kind say, I move for Cotiquine so air catch for say, Mukoko Nian talk. Because I'm him say, I'm born with 3 more posse, I'm more sign by Betty Cocoa so. Now, media dear woman muni nada. Nyan Saka cry Yankupon de Maya, ye form of feed the case, I catch a Rajon Mahaman in our buying. Say, so Mumu Danta, Umbu Danta Mudanta.
Well, so this is a statement directly on the doorstep of the PBC. And William, hold on a bit for me, because we have the the managing director of the produce buying company, PBC, Alhaji Saidu Yonye. Alhaji, good evening. Thank you for joining us here on Ghana Tonight.
Good evening, Fred, and good evening to our cherished viewers.
Right, you heard Frank Anodom-Preh there. First off, great. Has there been any order from government to you not to purchase the cocoa beans?
Honorable Anodom-Preh's claim is absolutely false. They are perpetrating mischief. Government has given no such directive to PBC. PBC, we are even out there asking farmers that if they have their cocoa, they should take it to our sheds so that we can take over it. And once we take over and submit to CMC, monies will be made available for the farmers immediately. So there is no way government has asked us not to buy cocoa from farmers. And let me put this record straight. We, PBC, Cocoa Board, and for that matter, government do not owe us a dime. And for that matter, PBC do not owe farmers a dime. We have just started mobilizing cocoa from our farmers. And once we send it to CMC, we assure all farmers that once Cocoa Board receive the bean, payment will be made available to them. So that mischief should go off the line. The situation in which the previous administration left PBC in, we don't have even good books to go to the bank to lend. And it should be on record that he's saying that we have gone to the bank to take money to buy cocoa and we have not had payment is absolutely lies. From where I sit, Cocoa Board, and for that matter, the CEO has made payment to LBCs and for that matter to farmers a priority in his agenda. And I can tell you without doubt that over the past 6 weeks, Cocoa Board has released over 6 billion Ghana cedis to LBCs to pay farmers. So I'm surprised that all of a sudden, MPP is going to the cocoa farms, have strangely become friends of cocoa farmers.
Well, it says that you don't have money to purchase.
Alfred, let me make this very clear.
Right.
We didn't see Honorable Adompre in the cocoa farms. What has come of him? Today, he has suddenly found his relationship and friendship with cocoa farmers just because we want to perpetrate mischief. And I don't think it's good as a citizen. This is one of the backbones of the economy, cocoa, and we must not play damn politics with it. Commodity trade do not need speculation. We think we are doing good to the farmers, but the speculations that keep going on keep bringing down the prices. It has a tendency of doing that. So we must be very careful as citizens the way we are going with this cocoa issue. I must say that it should be kept on record. It is a practice that is known in the industry. Cocoa prices are determined by FOB. And it is said that at any pricing season, government decide to give 70% of the current world market price, that's the FOB price, to the farmer and retention of 30% to the industry. That's the regulators.
Right.
So there is no way that President Mahama is reducing the cocoa prices. You can see it that way. But currently, let me tell you, somewhere in October 2025, when Abidjan, that's our next door neighbor, the leading producer in the world, was given a little over 3,600, Ministry of Finance and for that matter, Cocoa Board had to adjust up from 3,200 to 3,600 and 25. So today, as we sit, Ghana is paying far, far more than Cote d'Ivoire.
And I think that also is an issue we'll touch on in our subsequent conversations as to how that creates a possible incentive for smuggling and how cocoa farmers in Ghana should be safeguarded to benefit from this development. Alhaji Saidu Yonye, thank you, is Managing Director of the Produce Buying Company, PBC. And William, maybe quickly, where next with this tour?
Well, so tomorrow, there's a possibility of the group navigating the New Dubiase areas, Obuasi, and then Fomena, if nothing changes.
Thank you so much, and we'll keep tabs with you on this. William Evans Nkume is our Northern Bureau Chief. Also to you, Alhaji Saidu Yonye, Managing Director of the Produce Buying Company. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us here on Ghana Tonight. We're back again tomorrow for another conversation. On behalf of the rest of the team, we do appreciate your company. I am Alfred Kansi. Have a good night.
Ghana Tonight is brought to you by
Flamingo Paint. Superior durability, superior hiding, superior coverage, simply superior.
Sasso insecticide spray and coil. Kumin tuntum prekun.